There's definitely, we need to, it's not going to not be hard work just because you love it. And passionate actually means to suffer, the Latin root to suffer. And so it basically is if you're passionate about something, you're willing to suffer for the thing. You're willing to lose sleep. You're willing to take out a loan. You're willing to practice for hours on hours and hours and get that mastery. Rest does not just mean physical rest. It means rest from the computer, rest from creating all the time, rest from inputs. Like, how many audiobooks are you listening to? Are you doing anything with it?
Thanks for saying yes to doing this. All right, well, let's make it official. We'll dive right in. We have Sarah Kalmeta, our leader, facilitator, speaker, and host who helps people navigate change without burning out or losing themselves. Her work is rooted in adaptability, embodiment, and telling the truth about what change actually asks of us, especially when the cameras are off and life gets real. I love that.
Yeah.
You are a powerhouse in this world. I'm so excited to dive in. You help people navigate change, but not in the like move faster, do more kind of way. More in the tell the truth about what change actually asks of us. So I'd love to start there.
Okay. Yeah. So a lot of times we gloss over what the truth is when we're looking at change. And the reality is that even if it's something that you really, really want, like a marriage or a promotion or moving across the world, with that comes a lot of other things. The biggest thing is an identity shift. A lot of us don't acknowledge that. So we're still think of it like trying to use the latest release of software on a Windows 95 PC, like the PCs that were back then, right? The big block things or those big Mac computers. And so when we often focus on upgrading the hardware, but we don't look at the software. And it takes a lot to learn how to navigate, okay, what's now the social norm for this new position I'm in? Or what's the social norm in this new culture, this new industry? What got you here won't get you there. And do we even know that, like, what there is for us? A lot of times, I was just discussing this on a call earlier. We're prepping for a keynote next month. And we're talking about how your career will pivot many times over the course of your life. It's very rare that it will not, especially in today's world. And very often, too often, the thing we default to is, okay, here's my big goal, my big, hairy, audacious goal. So those of you in business might have heard of the BHAG. And it's great to have that, right? Like the whole adage, if you shoot for the moon, at least you'll land amongst the stars, even if you don't make it to the moon. Great. What comes after that? And who are you once you have the thing? Do you know how to hold the thing? Who are you when you're there? And what do you focus on once you're there? And can you enjoy it? Most of us are so focused on this goal, we get tunnel vision. We ignore other aspects of our lives. We try to do all of it at once, everything, everywhere, all at once. And it's not sustainable. And don't get me wrong. There are those of you out there who are high performers probably listening to this going like, yeah, but Sarah, yeah, but I've already done this or I've done that. And, don't tell me what to do. I was very much like that, very, very much like that. And the reality is that we all have our breaking point. Your breaking point might be much later. You might have the capacity to hold more risk, more uncertainty. And that is a valuable skill set in life. It doesn't mean that any of this other stuff is no longer applicable. It's simply a different timeline. So when we look at change, I really encourage people. I've created what I call the adaptability stack. And what are those things that we're looking at? And how do we look what's under the surface? Think of an iceberg. The tip is motion. We all see that. But what's happening under the surface? And what are those things under the surface that are hidden, unaddressed? And those are the things that are causing stagnation. Those are the things that are causing you to not take action or to take action in the wrong areas. Like you could be the first one on the mountain, but if it's not the right mountain that you actually want to be on, and too many of us get there and we're like, oh shit, now what?
Right. Oh, I found myself there many times. And a lot of conversations I have with my clients as well, it comes to that spot where it's like you've been on this path and with ambitious goals and you've reached this spot and it's like you get there and it's like, oh, Okay. Now what? This isn't what I thought it would feel like, or, this didn't quite fill my cup the way I expected it to.
You said the magic words. This doesn't feel like what I thought it would feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Because so many of us have this intellectualized version of what we think it is and what we're all told that we should want. And, depending on what culture you grew up in, it's like, if you're not a lawyer or a doctor, you're nothing, right? Like that's the pinnacle of success.
Yeah.
And, yet we also know the flow states we get into when you're doing the thing that you absolutely love. It could be pottery. It could be tea. It could be just, playing with your dog, but we lose track of time. We're really creative and we come up with all these ideas. Imagine everybody was able to access that because they were given permission to pursue the things that were interesting to them. What kind of world we would have today, rather than forcing ourselves into things that we're not good at. The first time you learn anything, and definitely discipline and hard work will replace natural talent over time, because the person who has natural talent will not apply themselves. And once it becomes hard, they usually stop and put their attention on something else that is naturally easy. So there's definitely, we need to, it's not going to not be hard work just because you love it. And passionate actually means to suffer, the Latin root to suffer. And so basically is if you're passionate about something, you're willing to suffer for the thing. You're willing to lose sleep. You're willing to take out a loan. You're willing to practice for hours on hours and hours and get that mastery. So finding that for yourself is critical, but also recognizing that, it'll be work sometimes. And that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And in the beginning, you might suck. Like you have to be willing to suck at something, which doesn't feel good.
Yeah, that's hard. That's the hard part. But it also goes to show like how serious, how real is this to you? Are you willing to even suck at it for
Right?
who knows how long before,
And the
So
funny thing is like the older we get, the more of an expert we are, especially in very specialized industries or niche. As soon as you niche down or you've been doing this for 30 years, you're less willing to suck at something because you don't want to look like you're incapable in front of other people. And yet that willingness is what's going to keep you excelling and keep you getting more mastery over the entire thing, not just like one scope of it. Anyone who plays sports, I was just listening to this on 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene, and he's like, a lot of times, let's say it's basketball, and you love dribbling. So you practice dribbling, but you don't practice free throws, you don't practice anything else. So you get really, really good at dribbling the ball, but you kind of are mediocre at the rest. And then your skill becomes lopsided. And true masters are willing to do the other thing because they know they suck at it and they know they need to work on it and suck less at it and put boundaries around that thing that's not so great, but not let it be a weak point that they can't recover from,
So good. For high performers, adaptation is often praised. When does it quietly become a reflex instead of a decision?
Oh, I love this. I love that question. So the thing with anything that you're learning in life is that we don't know what we don't know. Think of a little kid, right? They don't know what they don't know. They're discovering everything all the time. They don't know that stove's hot, and if they touch it, it's going to burn their hands. So they have to learn that. They have to discover that. And so that early stage is unconscious incompetence. I don't know that I'm bad at that thing and that I don't have that skill set. And at some point in our journey, we learn about this thing, whatever it is, and we learn that, oh, I am now aware. I am conscious that I am incompetent at this thing. And too often we let that stop us in our tracks from getting better. And so we busy ourselves with other things, or we just avoid that thing and we don't ever work at getting better. Other people can use that as fuel to be like, oh, I now have awareness that I don't have the skill set. Let me go get it. And we can see clear examples of both in ourselves. Like you might be willing to do it in some areas and not in others. And we're all like that. That's very human, very natural. And then, we've all heard the 10,000 hour rule of kind of mastery. And whether that's the hard and exact fast number, for some people it might be less, for some people it might be more, but you will always, if you're committed to working on whatever the thing is as a craft, then you're always coming at it with a beginner's mindset, and you're doing your best to remove assumptions and biases and expectations, which is what allows you to learn in a different way, because we tend to get a little arrogant the better we are at something. Like, I already know everything there's to learn about this, or like, I've already done that. I don't need to learn it again. Wrong.
Right.
Only from personal experience. I'm very, very wrong. But then all of a sudden it's like conscious competence. Like, I know that I'm good at this now, but I still have to I have to focus a lot. It takes a lot of focus. And then at some point, you don't have to think about it anymore. I mean, think about driving. When we started driving, it was like, oh my God, I got to put it in reverse and I got to do this. And then like check your rearview mirror and look behind your shoulder. Now everybody has a camera. Lucky kids. And the first time you're on the freeway, the car is shaking and you're like, oh my God, what am I doing? Right. And next minute, 2 years, 3 years later, girls are putting mascara on, you're eating your cereal. Like, all of a sudden you wake up and you wake up because you zoned out and you're like, oh, how did I get to my driveway? Clearly, you are unconsciously competent enough that in the background, everything was running and you were able to go somewhere else in your mind. Now, I don't encourage that, of course. Like, we want to be focused if we're driving. And even when we do have the unconscious competence, we have to be careful it doesn't turn into complacency because things change. So how do we make sure that we're conscious enough to know when there's something new that, hey, I have now awareness of this new thing to learn, or I have new awareness of how to expand this even further. Singers will play with their range. They'll play with songs of a different genre, even if that's not something that they plan to do, but they're training, like, what does it feel like here? And sometimes discovering that it feels really good. They would have never known that had they not tried. So the answer to your question, at what point, it really depends. How much effort are you putting in? What is, and are you even aware? A lot of times we're not aware that we're actually unconsciously competent and it's just muscle memory until we go into a situation where we can observe others and go, oh, wow, yeah, I no longer ask that question, or I no longer trip over there, but I'm tripping over here now.
It's almost a surprise sometimes when you arrive, discovery, like, oh, this isn't quite a thing anymore.
Continual arrival, right? We're constantly arriving to the present moment, to the now. And so with that, if you adopt that mindset, it's like you're always arriving. There is no like, I arrive and I'm done.
You've been exploring what happens when high performers pause long enough to ask whether momentum is still serving them.
Mm-hmm.
What tends to surface in that pause?
A lot of discomfort.
Discomfort, yeah.
A lot of like compulsion and all of a sudden awareness at how we make ourselves very busy to avoid feeling the hard thing. And it's really hard. I mean, even to this day, like, I just introduced a practice this year, and I've been like really diving into this work now for 8-9 years, where I'm constantly, asking myself these harder questions. But I'm human. And sometimes when you learn about this stuff, you become even better at telling yourself stories about how you're not doing it. So that's the trap you got to be careful of, especially if you're a high performer. Like, you're going to do the mental gymnastics like you would not believe. Like, I could have 10 gold medals in mental gymnastics. And that's not always serving me. So this year I introduced a 15-minute micro Sabbath. In 2023, I did a 24-hour Sabbath, and it was like Friday afternoon to Saturday afternoon. No phone, no computer, no electronics, just fully present. And it's difficult. And people were like, well, how do you get things done? And it's like, well, how did we get things done before cell phones? Clearly we did it. And I still remember one of my friends, one of my best friends here in Austin, he's doesn't live here anymore, but he was like 5 years younger than me. And we agreed to meet at a place. And he was like screenshotting me the exact location, the night before, because he knew my phone would be off and that I wouldn't be looking at it. And guess what? We were both early, and he had coffee in his hands, and he was like looking around for the spot. He saw me, I saw him. Our smiles broke out into big faces because we saw see each other rather than, being on a phone or something. So it was an invitation for him to join me. And he's like, man, that was actually so much fun. A little bit like, were you going to be there? We were both early, and it's like, yeah, because before you couldn't just call and make up the excuse like, I'm on my way, when you're still in the shower. And it was just like such a great thing that I did, but it can be hard to commit to a full 24 hours. So this year I just said, okay, you know what? I'm going to do 15 minutes every afternoon. So at 3:00, I have an alarm and it just says micro Sabbath. And like, look, I'm not rigid. I'm not going to maybe do it right at 3 if I get a phone call or if something's happening. I'm at an event, but in the afternoon, I will then have it on my radar. I'm going to spend 15 minutes just doing nothing. I'm not going to meditate. I'm not doing breath work. I am simply going to sit there and observe my surroundings.
Nice.
The first like 9 attempts at this, I was like, what am I doing? This is awful. And 60,000 thoughts racing through my mind. Just like, I was on the airplane. I'll give you this example last week. I'm like on the airplane. I'm like, oh, this is so boring. And then I start thinking about work. And then I start thinking about like this and the conversation I had yesterday. What am I going to eat for a snack? And I wonder if they're going to have those cookies that I like. And then like, oh, I should probably check my slides. The internet wasn't working before. I wonder if it'll work later. And then, and then I noticed how busy it was. I was like, oh my God, it's my mind. Wow. Okay. So then I look and I'm like, 6 minutes. That's it. Okay. Like, you got this. Like, let's just go back to it. So I just stared out the window and, eventually it got quiet. And I was just looking at the clouds and there were still thoughts that like drifted in, but not to that same degree. And then I was like, well, I'm curious how much time has passed now. Maybe it's only been 10 minutes. And then I look and it had been 23 minutes. So I went over my goal of 15. And I was like, whoa, well, I feel like so calm. Like this is great. I just have to get through the sticky point, and then this is what I can experience on the other side. And when I did open my laptop, instead of getting like distracted or like, sometimes you search something because you want to write about it or talk about it. And then you see the next thing and the next thing, you go down a rabbit hole and then 3 hours goes by and you didn't actually do the thing you wanted to do. That didn't happen. All of a sudden it was just, I could be very focused on the task at hand. And I think that's a very lost skill in today's day. So I was also reminded of, hey, it doesn't have to be a full 24 hours. It doesn't have to even be an hour. Like just simply sitting there for 15 minutes, giving myself a break and making it okay to sit there and give myself a break has been so powerful.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see like how that practice might expand and evolve over the course of this year.
Love that. I love that. It is really amazing, first of all, to make that plan, stick to it, and then see what happens on the other side. And me sitting here like 15 minutes, that's not, I mean, it's a lot of time, but it's not really that much time, like what's that gonna do? But man, yeah, that clarity coming out of the other side.
And that's a high performer thought often, that what's that going to do? Like go big or go home. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it for an hour. I'm here to tell you, Mr. and Miss High Performer, you don't actually have the skill set yet to sit there and do nothing for an hour. And if you want to argue me on that, tell me when the last time you did that was, when you didn't have a phone in your hand. Tell me when you watched a movie all the way through without the phone in your hand, right? I'm guilty of it too. And it's not like you're going to be perfect at this every single time. But too often we fail at the tasks we set out after because we don't have the skills to do the thing and we bite off more than we can chew. And it doesn't feel good and we don't know how to regulate that. And so then we hide from it or we distract ourselves or, like I saw a meme the other day. I was like, I would like to successfully announce I have successfully completed the task that took me 3 minutes after avoiding it for 3 years.
Yeah, I think I saw that too. It was like, okay, I felt that.
I feel called out.
Definitely. Why do you think stopping feels so threatening to a high performer?
Because high performers are generally motivated by an insecurity or a provocation, meaning like for example, you can never be that. You don't have what it takes. And you go, oh yeah, I will prove to you that I have what it takes. And you set out on this journey. Or you are so insecure that you're not enough without doing the thing because you probably grew up in a household where achievement was celebrated, not effort. And unless you made the all-star team or unless you became captain or unless you got the straight A's, you were punished in some way or a love was withheld. And so you learned from an early age, and we see it all in society and in our movies and all the things that what's celebrated and what's not and all of that. And so you probably learned and adopted this mindset that I need to be worthy. And so I'm going to do all these things to prove my worth. And that's generally what's driving a high performer. Because there are also people who perform at a very high level who are not driven by those things, but it's because they're in their flow state. and they're obsessed with whatever the thing is, and they don't care if they suck, and they don't care how long it's going to take. They're willing to keep showing up and getting better and learning and adapting and just doing that every single day. And they're committed to that. They're committed to the mastery. And yet we look at them and we go, oh, you were lucky, or, oh, like you did it in 2 years. No, they had 20 years behind them of studying this thing and many failures that just were not celebrated or talked about. And that's why. So high performers, it's like we don't have a sense of safety because we probably learned at some age, very young, that it was not safe to rest. You were wasting your talent. You were not ambitious enough. You would fail in life if you didn't do this thing or, got this exact grade. And so you taught your system to just keep going and keep pushing through. Or if you're a competitive athlete, you learned how to ignore your body signals, gain muscle. Anyone who needed to ever get stronger, you have to eat when you're not hungry, right? And then you have to push your body past its limits so that it can grow and stretch. But if you don't rest, you get injured. So what separates amateurs from pros is that they have a plan for their rest as well. But then for some reason with intellectual pursuits, we change it. And we're like, keep going, I'm this machine. And we're not. we need to sleep. If evolution didn't need us to sleep, it would have taken it out by now.
Right. So true. How much of ambition is actually fear wearing a nice, pretty outfit?
I would say, I'm going to completely make up a number, but I would say 90s percentile, because think about it. If you're not afraid, are you running from anything? Are you running towards something? No, you're probably enjoying the heck out of whatever it is that you have.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time to realize this. And it's not to say that that can't be healthy at times, or to be acknowledging that, like the pro mindset instead of an amateur will go, I'm terrified, but I'm also kind of excited. Like, I'm going to do it anyway. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but let's go figure it out. The amateur will be like, I have no idea what I'm doing and it's too scary and it's not certain. I can't control the outcome. Therefore, I won't do it. Or I'm going to performatively masturbate and make all these plans and talk about all these plans, but never actually do something about it. You can't learn just by otherwise it's like all of us could take a book and do this and be like, great, I have the knowledge now and I can do the thing. Even reading a book, you have to take the action, which is why most people read a book and nothing changes.
So true. Man, this is great. I'm already excited to re-listen and take notes of my own.
Yay, awesome. I love it.
So when someone's identity has been built on movement, someone that's always on the go and that's just like how they be, what does staying put actually ask of them emotionally?
Let me just make sure I understand your question. So if their identity is wrapped up in go, go, go and always doing something rather than the being, and it's when they make the shift or the attempt to shift towards being, what's actually being asked? Is that what your is? Okay.
Yeah. Emotionally.
Yeah, emotionally, what's being asked of you is to get comfortable with the discomfort that you have with the sensations in your body. Most of us, especially in America, it's like, oh, you have a headache, go take this pill. Oh, your tummy hurts, take this pill. And now because you took those 2 pills, this hurts. And so go take that pill. And now you can't sleep, so go take this one. And just, it's like nonstop. We're in a constant cycle of avoidance or chasing. And there's a lot of philosophy around that and different doctrines and that's like the root of all suffering. So what's being asked of you when you stop doing things is can you be okay in this moment, no matter what the moment is bringing you? One of my favorite Rumi poems is The Guest House. And it's basically the premise is, it's a beautiful poem. I highly encourage everyone to Google it and look at it and read it and sit with it, really sit with it. And the premise is, when misery comes to your doorstep, or anger or fear, you welcome them in the same that you would with any other emotion, like joy or pride or whatever it is that you might have in that moment. Because when you start to make yourself wrong for any of those things, that's when shame comes in. And then that's when we start to hide. We don't address those things and we just have maladaptive coping patterns, which for many people is, I'm going to do more. I'm going to make myself really busy so that I'm too exhausted at the end of the day. I'm going to drink. I'm going to excessively exercise. Sometimes the healthy habits can also become really rigid and not a habit that is serving you any longer. So it's important to constantly like reassess, like, is this momentum in this moment, is it still serving me? Like there was a period in time I was competing at a high level in sports with figure skating, with CrossFit. And then there became a period of time where that momentum of the training and the intensity that was required for that level of competition was no longer serving me with the goals that I had with my career or with the goals that I had with being able to have community, and also just to like not be in pain all the time and not have to, miss out on some things because, I was going to go train the next day and alienate myself. Because for me, for a long time, that became like how I felt safe. You're controlling so many factors with your macros and your training and this. It gave me this illusion that I was controlling things. And then my identity's wrapped up in that, and I sprained my ankle. The mental anguish that I had was unbearable because I had nothing else. So it's really learning to sit with the discomfort and like, be okay with what is and not make it personal. I'm like, okay, that didn't work out. You're not a bad entrepreneur. Your performance wasn't great. That doesn't make you bad. They're two different things. So how do you improve your performance? What's the thing that you need to learn? What's the thing you need to stop doing? And we can switch our mindset in that realm. Then we can stop feeling like we suck and, put ourselves down and try to shame ourselves into action. And we can go, hey, cool, there's something new to learn here. Like, let's get excited about it. Think about when you were a kid. Like, I think back to 18 and like you're graduating and the world is your oyster and you're like, oh my God, all the possibilities. And there's those memes too. They're like, should we tell them? Should we tell them? Like, we're on the other side now. We're jaded. To an 18-year-old, we're old farts, And yet, like, we can tap back into that. And how awesome would that be if we gave ourselves permission to? Mm-hmm. That's the other thing, is it's really allowing yourself to, like, give yourself permission to do something different.
A lot of growth in that.
Write it out for yourself. That's what I invite people to do all the time. I did it. I had to literally write myself a permission slip to take a nap or to, like, not read a nonfiction book. Like, and I stopped reading fiction for a long time, and I had to write myself a permission slip to be like, you can read this fiction book for 15 minutes. Like, I give you permission. And for some weird reason, I don't know if it's because we had to get hall passes when we were in school or something. It's how we're wired, and it works. Like, physically get a pen out and write like a little permission slip for yourself.
Love it.
Yeah.
I might have to try that.
Silly, but it's good.
But yeah, I mean, some of those things are, it's like you get so like tunneled, like action oriented and all the things. And first it's like to be aware of what you need to give yourself permission for. But yeah, to have that tactical thing that helps you make that pivot, like is really important. I can see that. I'm already thinking of things that I need to give myself permission slips for. So it's good stuff. So you talk about nervous system regulation. See that pop up a lot. What do most high performers misunderstand about their own nervous system?
Oh, so many things. Someone who's a high performer who's also into athletics or anything fitness wise, like they'll know if you tax your central nervous system by lifting really heavy weights, especially as you're trying to improve like a 1 rep max, you have to, like, you can't lift at a 1 rep heavy max every single day, right? You have to have progressions and then deload weeks so that your muscles have the time to repair and get stronger, because the strength actually is coming when it's repaired. So you're literally breaking down muscle tissue, and then as it's healing, we're getting that strength, right? But it doesn't heal if we keep moving. So we know this about the body physically. So as a high performer, I'm like doing all this stuff at work, and I move really, really quickly. Like, you're making connections, and you probably are getting very frustrated by everybody else around you that's super slow, right? And you're laughing because you've been there.
Yeah.
But your 50% is probably most people's 150%. And they're getting whiplash watching you do all this stuff. And they're like, I can't compute, So one thing is learning that people operate at different speeds. But then what do high performers do? They leave work, their high stressful job. Maybe they're traveling a lot. They're on a plane all the time. So, okay, you're in a plane all the time. A tax on your nervous system, like really hard. If you start wearing a Whoop or an Oura Ring or a Garmin or any of that stuff, you'll start to notice the data, which you can't argue with. And the people who take them off, they actually will say out loud, it's because I don't like looking at the data. So they know that they're doing something that's against what is best, but they feel good in doing it because, I'd have the stressful day. So what was my release? I'd go run 10K or I'd go lift heavy weights. It felt good. I got endorphins and my nervous system was stressed more, which meant I'm not recovering. And when I got this thing, it was like, yeah, I feel good today. I'm going to go do the hard exercise. And then I'm super focused. I'm learning. I'm rehearsing a keynote, whatever it is I'm doing. Then I do it again the next day. Meanwhile, and then like all of a sudden, like, hey, my shoulders got that like tightness on again. And like my pec is like really compressed and my forearms are tight. And like, what's going on in my body? Why is it hurting? I'm barely working out now. Well, I'm taxing my central nervous system, both mentally and cognitively. And then I'm also stressing my body, which is impacting my sleep. Like cortisol, like last year, I started waking up at 2, 3 a.m. Started having to pee in the night. And if that happens for you, what's literally happening is your body doesn't feel safe enough to go into a deep sleep because there's danger that it has to prepare for. So what it's doing is it's jacking your cortisol up and overproducing urine so that you have to get up, and it disrupts your sleep. So you stay in a light sleep cycle because that's more safe for when the saber-toothed tiger comes. Like you'll be able to react better. You won't be in this deep sleep. And it's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm here again. Like I know all these things. I talk about all these things. It doesn't make you immune. And so the biggest thing that we miss, high performers miss, is that cognitive drain and how much it taxes your nervous system. And how we need those breaks. Like rest does not just mean physical rest. It means rest from the computer, rest from creating all the time, rest from inputs. Like how many audiobooks are you listening to? Are you doing anything with it? And I met a guy last year and he introduced a concept to me. And he said, I was reading a lot of books and I kind of had this goal of like, can I read more books every year and like expose myself to new things? But year after year, I'm kind of in the same spot. So I thought, what if I just pick 2 books and I wrestle with the concepts in those books and I read them over and over and I take notes and I come back to it over and over to gain new perspective. And I really apply it in every aspect of my life, wherever I can. And like the shift that occurred for him. And it's like enabled him to actually, because you're putting into action what you're reading about. And I was like, wow, this is a novel concept. I got really excited by it, but did I do it? No. And then I'm like, oh, wait a second, hold on, Sarah. And so this year I've been really taking my time reading through the books, giving myself permission to listen to the full cast of Harry Potter, just because it's fun and magical and whimsical. And I'm still waiting for my Hogwarts letter. Okay. I'm a late bloomer. But, letting myself really kind of chew on the material. And even in some cases, like pausing, reflecting, and going back and rereading the same few paragraphs again. And I've noticed that it's like in my psyche more. And as I'm whatever in my day, that's coming up to the surface more than the default mode.
Okay.
And it's interesting to observe slowing down the pace of the input and the reading. And, I haven't yet come back to the notes part yet, but it's a challenge for me because I love reading. I love learning. Don't necessarily want to slow down with it, but I do want to grapple with it more. And when you have dissonance and when you spend time to pull apart a concept, that's when you actually learn.
Yeah.
So I'm going to treat it like my rest time in the gym, like how do I rest and like let this stuff marinate rather than just forcing more down into the noggin.
Yeah, I love that. It goes along with the slowing down in general, like how much more clarity and calm we find in that space. So I love that too.
Thing I do want to address though, in the beginning, you may not find clarity. You might get the chaos. Like I mentioned, I had all these thoughts going on. And you might also get awareness around something that somewhere your subconscious knows. So it's keeping you safe by keeping you busy. And that might be related to a little T trauma or a big T trauma. More often than not, you are going to get an insight about something that might not feel good, but it's going to be what helps you learn. And we have to address those things. The more we ignore it and the more we just hide from it, like you name it to tame it. When you can face that, when you turn the light on in the closet, there's no more monster. It's just your clothes. We got to turn the light on. And sometimes we're running away because we know somewhere inside that when we turn that light on, we're going to have to look at the ugly parts of ourselves. And I have this little quote on my desk downstairs. And it says, I'm still learning how to clap for the part, or to love the parts that nobody claps for. I'm still learning how to love the parts of myself that nobody claps for. And that is not an easy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's absolutely necessary.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. Yeah, chills.
Ah,
That's really important. You answered a question that I was going to ask, but I want to vocalize it so that I can
yes, please.
put it back in for context. But um, how do you personally notice when your body is asking for rest before your mind agrees?
That's a good one. Yeah. So my body will generally ask for rest when, or like the signals that I have for myself that I've learned over time is that all of a sudden those niggly pains come back. Um, like the no matter how much I stop working out or what have you, like it's still there. And it's just this starts really small, but then it just doesn't go away. And then it kind of escalates from there. I noticed that my face will be a little more puffy. I'm like holding fluid. My body's not getting the drainage it needs, probably because I'm not moving my body either. I'll start to gain awareness that I'm a little more reactive than normal. And I've noticed actually, like with alcohol, the next day, my threshold for my tolerance of like frustration, that threshold is so low. And I often will cry because I'm so frustrated.
Mm.
And in my mind, I'm like, this is nothing. What is even happening? But I can't stop the physical reaction and physiological response. And yet, what are most people doing? They're eating things that they have intolerances to, they're having alcohol, they're not paying attention enough. And we're so numb, like society is so numb.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know how to articulate what we're feeling. And that's been a big journey for me. So I use the emotions wheel. I use it in all my work and my workshops with clients. One of the most amazing tools I've ever come across. And I still get insights to this day. And I've been using it for 10 years. And just like learning that granularity has been super powerful. So when I start to notice that my level of granularity is going away as well, like I'm just defaulting to, I don't feel good. I feel bad. Like the all encompassing words,
Mm-hmm.
making a mountain out of a molehill. I'm like, all right, something's going on here. Something's going on here, even if I don't want to admit it yet. But like, let's pay attention and diagnose. A lot of times, it's easier to physically diagnose and be like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to, go for a walk every afternoon. And then from there, you give yourself a little more space for the mind to kind of catch up and come to a place of acceptance.
Just want to pause. How are you feeling? How you feeling this is going? I'm loving the conversation.
I'm loving the conversation as well.
Yeah. I just feel like there's so much, especially in the space of busy and high achieving, like there is so little slow or pause to really, I love how you said to get granular about what you're feeling and unpacking that. Like most people don't even allow space to have those moments. So this is a really important conversation, I think. So thank you.
Thank you.
Um, you've said that you're learning how to rest without turning it into another achievement. I love that, and you dropped this earlier, like with the books and reading, and um, I think that's really important to kind of unpack. What do you feel is the hardest thing about that?
Well, my type A personality just comes in and wants to like be the best. And so I still remember this cartoon that I saw like in 2019 or something. And it's like two people walking and it's like the type A and the type B person. And the type B person is like, you really like should learn to rest more. And they're like stopping and the B person's smelling the flowers and the A person's like walking by. And then they finally like the A person's like, I'm going to be the best at resting. I'm going to win at resting. And I'm going to smell the most flowers and I'm going to smell them the longest. It's just like, people laugh because it's so ridiculous, but it's so true. Like, and totally become like obsessed with the new metric and take it into an unhealthy thing. And so the hardest thing is just like allowing yourself the space. And so one quote I also like Anyone who plays music will recognize this, but the pause is just as important as the note. If there's no space between the notes, it's just noise.
Yeah.
Same thing with a speech. Like the most powerful moments in a speech are when it's silent because people are processing and it's like landing for them and it becomes real and it makes them feel something. And we have the wrong order of operations. We're like, I'm going to do the thing so that I have this result and I'm going to feel a certain way. We have to allow ourselves to feel so that we can then be that person. And then that person becomes the one who takes the action, and then the action will lead to results. Like giving that space allows stuff to come to the surface, and then we get clarity, which then we can take the right action rather than maybe defaulting to an old story, making assumptions. And so the hardest part is like learning safety. And so my partner actually said just at Christmas this year, because we didn't do very much. We didn't travel. We had just moved. And he said, I'm really glad that as a type A, you allow yourself to rest. I am allowing myself to rest, aren't I? And I was like, I'm really glad too. Because in the past, it'd be like almost like nervous energy and couldn't stop moving. And one of the things when you're in an aligned relationship and you're not trying to hide from it, then you start to notice maybe patterns you had in previous relationships. Sure. And I wasn't feeling safe to be my true self in previous relationships. A lot of that had to do with I didn't know what those things were. I was too afraid to talk about them or articulate them. But because of that, I had to stay busy and I had to like have these other ways of feeling good because I wasn't authentic. And now that I have this safety to be myself, I don't have to run away from myself. And that's like been the biggest thing. And to have that mirrored back to me and someone else experiencing, like, I know that it's not always easy for you, but you do let yourself rest and we can do these things together and we can go into what we call potato mode. You know, we're just gonna be potatoes. It's okay. But man, if I think about the start of my journey, I would lay down to try to take a nap, would not be able to. I'd be in yoga class for Shavasana and my hands would be like boards, you know, like I couldn't, like not even just like slightly closed palms because I was doing the thing, I was doing the pose, but I was putting effort in, you know, it was like everything has to have effort. Sometimes the biggest effort is letting go and letting yourself experience something without having to use your will to make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's my
so
life.
Good.
My mom will tell you that. I'm a very willful person, but things are actually more magical when you take that out because the will is the ego. And the ego is about safety and the ego is about like prestige and like, look at me. But when you take that away and you're really like, this is we in partnership, in business, in community, you get much better results.
Mm-hmm. So true. So what does listening actually feel like in the body? Like, and not like you're saying, you know, like not as an idea of it, but like the actual experience of it. What does that feel like?
Yeah. So when you're listening to yourself, to clarify.
Yeah.
Because often that's a great question. I love that. And you know, really at the end of the day, it's hard to listen. We might think that we're good listeners and we might be better than most and better than we used to be. But more often than not, we've got that little voice in our head, still talking away, still trying to like, as we're listening to somebody else, come up with our story or come up with our thing that we want to add in or, you know, whatever it is. So the experience, at least for me, I can't speak to other people, is the listening feels almost like I'm straining a little bit. You know, like I'm like searching. What is it that I'm supposed to get from this, whatever this is? And that gets tiring. And then as I'm like doing that process, a lot of times it's like scanning my body for sensations, noticing where there's probably discomfort, and then being willing to not just shift a little. Because I had a great story analogy that my friend in Hong Kong shared, and it's the dog on the rusty nail. So like I come near your house and your dog's like, you know, fidgeting, and it's like, just constantly moving. And I'm like, Dauss, what's your dog doing? Like, why can't he sit still? You're like, oh, he's laying on top of a rusty nail. I'm like, well, why doesn't he just move? Look, this porch is massive. Like, there's so many other places to lay down. Like, what's he doing? Well, it doesn't hurt enough yet. And most of us go through life just like being content to slightly shift a little bit over and over and over because it doesn't hurt that much. So we go into this autopilot of just constant fidgeting, constant motion, constant momentum. Yeah, I'm working towards a thing, but it's not serving us because we're not actually facing the reality. Like, we could just get up and move. So many people complain about their life circumstances. But if your circumstances need to be a certain way for you to be happy, you will always complain, even when you get the thing that you want.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you be okay despite the circumstance? You know, we hear all these stories, and look, I'm not asking you to go like be a monk and like meditate and downsize and get rid of all your things and live like an austere lifestyle. No, but if people can be happy in those circumstances and find moments of happiness, we can certainly find it with all the wonderful, beautiful things we have in our lives, despite the stress. So it's a yes and conversation. So the feeling for me often is very uncomfortable at first. And I'm distracted. I'm like, oh my God, my shoulder hurts. I'm like, okay, let me move up, sit up straight, move my chin back, double chin, double chin. Your neck's heavy, your head's heavy. It's going to hurt your neck. All these things go through my mind. And then eventually it's just like that fades away. And I'm no longer trying to do something. I'm no longer striving to listen. I'm no longer like doing anymore. I'm just being. And I'm being with what is. And what is often uncomfortable. And then past that discomfort, I might get moments of clarity or moments of bliss or moments of anger or moments of, insert emotional experience here. And the more I let myself experience that, the faster those things come through. Like now, I used to never cry. I'm like, especially crying in front of other people. Holy shit, no way. I might ruin my mascara and they're going to think I'm weak and like all these things. Now, like earlier today, I was in psycho class and she said something and my eyes watered. And it was literally a 3-second experience. And then it shifted into this like contentment. And so it's like the more you allow yourself to experience those uncomfortable things and just like let them move through you, the less they stay there. Like that shit's supposed to come and go. But when we hold on to it and we put a box around it to contain it and like never let it out, that's when it becomes like the tension in the body that we're all carrying.
So good. I'm curious, and you don't have to answer, just my own personal curiosity. What did she say in the class that impacted you?
You know what?
Remember?
I can't even remember.
Yeah.
And
I thought that might be the case. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. And it's like in the beginning, a lot of this stuff will feel so profound and so like you want to write it all down, you want to capture all of it. And yet the best things about life are ephemeral and effervescent and they don't last.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we can't capture them. And often the magic is lost when we do.
Right. I was going to say, oftentimes we're not meant to. They're supposed to move through. Just move through.
Just have that experience.
Love it. I want to shift gears just a tiny bit and talk about leadership. Let's see, what does leadership look like when there's no audience and no metrics to watch and no validation loop? Like,
I love that.
What's leadership look like there?
I love that question. Yeah. So often we're performing. There's a metric. We've been given some goal. And yet everyone who's listening to this, go take a look at your business card. Is the word leader on there? No. You might have manager or director or VP or whatever, right? Nobody's business card has the word leader on there. You don't have to be in a position of power to be a leader. We are all leaders and we start with self. How can you effectively lead other people if you cannot effectively lead yourself? So what does leadership look like when the cameras are off, when you're not on stage, when you're not on a podcast? Same thing like with the emotions when you sit down and you let the silence fill in the space. It looks messy. It looks real. It looks like coming to the terms with the fact that you made a decision that didn't go the way you thought and it led to some results that weren't great, and owning it and being like, okay, what do we do about this? How do we get better? And it's less of an I conversation. It's like really like what's in the best interest for everybody. And look, we're all human. We are all going to always have an ego. That shit's not going away until we pass on to the next experience. Maybe then it goes away. Who knows? I don't know. We'll find out.
We'll find out.
We'll find out at some point. And it also keeps you safe. Keeps you safe through those intense experiences. You didn't have the tools to be able to handle whatever that was at the time. So it's not about shaming yourself. Leadership is learning to handle the discomfort at greater and greater capacities in the moment, so that in the moment you have the hard conversation. In the moment, you're willing to make a decision that doesn't necessarily feel good, but is necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's not always
easy. Not always easy. Not at all.
It's not.
How does telling the truth about your own limits change the way you hold space for others?
Yeah, big one. I'm a big follower of like Ryan Holiday and Stoicism. And because we often put, especially high performers, put like high expectations on ourselves, we then put those expectations on other people. But they have different ambitions. They have different goals. They have different circumstances. They have different skills. They have different personalities. Everything is different. So how can we possibly ask them to be held to that expectation? Particularly if we may not necessarily be holding ourselves to it, right? Like we're kind of slacking on the accountability side and we're like, oh, but I expect you to do it. And we do that all the time, right? Mm-hmm. We put conditions on our friendship, on our love, on our work, tit for tat, transactional. Like we got to move beyond the transaction. We really want to we want to deepen and like offer from this place of fullness. And so when we are harsh with ourselves and we're like that really harsh taskmaster, we don't allow space for any mistakes, and that's where learning occurs. And perfection is impossible, and it is also a very lonely place to be, and you will likely alienate yourself. And it could be a slow, insidious thing, but you will alienate yourself.
I know we're running a little bit short on time. So I want to touch in on at least one thing from the last curiosity, poetry, and type 2 fun section, but humanize this up before we close it out. Okay. So you've mentioned type 2 fun. Where has that shown up in your life lately?
Well, last year I did a Tough Mudder. And so type 2 fun, for those of you that don't know, it's like in the moment it kind of sucks, but afterwards you're like, oh, that was great. You know, sometimes those hard workouts are that. You know, I'm going to say that honestly, the type 2 fun lately has been in shifting my relationship with physical movement and allowing myself to play with that rather than have it be a set, rigid thing. And I've even noticed, just like with my dog, I'm playing with her more. And so like we're sprinting and kind of doing side things, and it's just like so fun, but man, I can only do it for like 2 minutes. So like I've also just moved up, and so our condos are like up at the top of a hill. So I'm now sprinting up the hill every time I'm walking up it. Like it's short. It's not going to last very long. So therefore I can commit to that. And I'm curious to see, like it took me from literally the sidewalk. I started at the sidewalk and then I went up all the way hill and around. And then as soon as I got to like around the corner, I stopped. It took me 1 minute, 1 second. And so, you know, who knows, maybe later in the year, that'll take me 30 seconds. Maybe it'll take me 46. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows how fast that can actually be, because it is a significant like length, right? And a pretty steep hill. And it's just something small. So I think my type 2 fun this year is like those smaller compounding actions that I can play with, and then giving myself permission to do that.
Love it.
That's really hard for me. That's very hard for me. Like I want to go big and I want to like boom, you know, sonic booms leave damage in their wake. So can we boom in a different way, you know?
Yeah. Love that. Maybe one more question before we close. What does a well-lived, well-rested ambition look like to you?
I love this because I've been like kind of wrestling with it myself. So this answer is probably not fully formed and might be a little stream of consciousness, and that's okay because I know it's going to evolve. But right now, a well-rested, what was the other term?
Well-rested ambition.
Well-rested ambition. So well-lived ambition. Okay. So to me, that is I'm sleeping well without taking like aid, and jacking myself down and up all day long with different supplements and caffeine and all the things. So like I'm sleeping well. I'm not having the 2, 3 a.m. wake ups. I'm focused in my days and I can celebrate the wins while recognizing there's always more to do, right? And the connection with my partner and with my animal, who is my family, it's like this is present in my life. It's not absent. It's not in like ambition in spite of those things is for me no longer something I'm interested in. Like someone was like, "Oh, are you like into the high rocks thing now? Are you doing those competitions?" And I was like, "Man, I know I'd feel fucking great after a high rocks competition." And I also know myself, and I would get addicted to that feeling and I would want to chase it all the time. And I would get really rigid in my macros, then that's a miserable experience. And then I'd get like no downtime. And so, no, I'm not going to go to high rocks and do that. I don't need that anymore. And can I give it to myself in smaller, more consistent doses rather than these like pendulum swings back and forth? So I'm not sure if that's really answering the question, but it's also things like I'm able to put my phone away and not want to look at it. And I'm able to feel proud that I applied myself that day. Like I know when I'm screwing around and I'm just kind of like not doing the thing. And can I just give myself grace for those moments? Maybe even intentionally do that because I'm human and I need downtime, and then come back to it, like recommit. How do I find the things that I can recommit to every single day? And if it's not something I can recommit to every single day, can I take it off my plate and refocus that energy somewhere else? Because really it's like my peace and my experience of myself is going to trump all the outside ambition that I used to have. And I'm finding that when I'm doing those things, like when that's present, the feedback is exciting and I learn from it rather than feeling like I failed or like defensive and having to explain myself away. So I actually put a reminder on my phone every day to say I'm practicing saying what I want without explaining it away.
Oh, that's great. So
it's like I don't need reasons for why I want this thing. I can just simply want it.
That's so good. Well, I'm so excited to re-listen to this. I know I said that already, but I'm like, ooh. So for everyone that's listening, where do we find you? How do we learn more about who you are and what you do?
Thank you. You can find me sarahkalmata.com. And on Instagram, it's Sarah the Pivoter. I'm not that present there anymore because I've stopped filming my life, performing my life, and I've just started living it, which has been also a huge thing. I had to use an app to help me. I will admit that.
Okay. Nice.
And it's been great. Like it's called Be Present. It's designed by the people who made all the apps addictive. So they've made not being on the apps addictive by how they designed how it turns the stuff off on your phone. And for
interesting,
it's worked. Because I've tried the whole like screen time thing in the Apple iPhone settings. I bypass that shit every day. Like no barrier to me. I just kept going. I steamrolled that. For some reason, this is working and I love it. I'm quite active on LinkedIn. You can follow my thought leadership there. I have a podcast on YouTube, which I'm not currently releasing new episodes, but there's probably over 100 that you can go back and listen, and even listen to some previous episodes and compare and contrast with this one and see for yourself what's possible when you commit to constantly showing up and handling the discomfort. And Dauss, I'd really like to say, like, thank you for these thoughtful questions.
Yeah, of
These
course.
are really, really good questions, and I'm going to be chewing on them for a while.
Yay, good. Well, I can send you the ones that I wasn't able to ask because of the time.
Well, let's do another one. We can go into the
I'm down with that. Yeah, I'm down with that. That sounds great. Part 2. All right.
Let's do it.
Love it. Well, this conversation feels like an invitation to trust a quieter kind of intelligence. And I just want to thank you for bringing that into the room.
And thank you for saying that. That was a beautiful reflection. And I'm going to mull that over for this afternoon and this weekend.
Yay. All right, sister.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, enjoy the rest of your day and the things that you're into.
You too.
We'll talk soon.
We'll see you soon.
All righty. Bye.